EA 375 Online Marketing, Chapter 8 in our Digital Marketing Analytics text, Understanding Digital Influence. So, in Chapter 8, we talk about digital influencers and how to use them for digital marketing. So, we're going to go through these 5 different elements throughout this chapter here. So, what is currently the market for digital influence? How do we create a list of influencers? What tools can we use? How online versus offline influence looks, and then using our influencer list. So, first, we need to think about how we make decisions in everyday life. So, when you're trying to decide what to purchase, where do you go for information? Do you immediately go to Google, do a search, or do you ask those around you if they've made similar purchases that they can give you advice? What sources do you trust enough to give accurate information about yourself? For example, that if you landed on a website and they asked you to fill out a survey, would you actually do it or would you leave that website? Or do you have a extra email address that you send all email you don't actually want to look at too? So the book talks about the tipping point phenomenon as it relates to digital marketing and influence. So in the tipping point, generally news starts with a single source. Most content starts with a single source. The rest of the people find that news source or see that news source and then also start reporting on it. Eventually, once news places are sharing it, then people start sharing it and content spreads. So, this is similar to how an influencer should be used. Find someone who is good at getting content to spread. Some people believe that a single influencer is the is more likely to get a lot of content shared fast. Well, others believe that it's a larger community that pushes idea and content forward, not a single individual or a small group of people. And that it's better to reach a critical mass of people than it is to look at a few influencers. So there's 2 different approaches to this influencer market, depending on whether you believe that the smaller group, like the tipping point, or that it's community driven. It is, really impossible to reach everyone in an entire audience at the same time, but it is possible to reach a large audience and get to a very large target audience through more of a community based approach. So, how do we develop a media list? And our media list is the group of people that we're going to send content to when we have content that we want to be shared. This can be a wide variety of people. This can be news outlets. This can be bloggers that we think are relevant. This can be other brands that might share our brands. And this can be online influencers. So first, we want to determine what are we currently trying to sell. Is every single thing within our brand, so if we have multiple products or multiple product lines, is everything within our brand and for that current promotion, can they all use the same media list? Or should we have different curated lists for a variety of things? So first we need to think of what are we trying to sell with our pitch idea. And then we need to determine the media type. Are we looking to get out into the news? Are we looking to just be shared on social media? Are we looking for an influencer type? Identify our beat. So where are we looking for? What's our target audience? What's the right media type? Is it a news outlet? Is it something we're sending a press release for? Then we should select our tool. the content thing that we're going to do, scrub our list to make sure it's really good, and then start sending or contacting the people on that list, begin pitching. So we would send it out and say, hey, will you share this with your followers? Hey, this is content. Would you share this with your followers? You also need to have a good reason for why they should share it with their followers. Developing a modern day media list rather than just looking at news sites or different media outlets, we can go to Google, we can look at Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds, blog rolls, we can look at who influencers on Instagram are, and we need to think relevance first. So don't just look for people who are sharing lots of content and getting a lot of followers. If that person isn't relevant to your brand or relevant to what you're selling, you lose some of your authenticity with them. So you want to make sure that what they're relevant to your brand. Another example is that you know you wouldn't necessarily use someone who's a famous cooking blog for all brands or products. So you have to think about, is this relevant to my brand? Think syndication second. The entire point is that you are trying to get this out there. So look at who can get this into syndication, get this into the news market, who's going to pick this up from this person. What is their authenticity, and how likely is it that other people are going to pick up their content and share it? Then think about post volume and reach as third and fourth. So, what is their post volume? How often do they post? And how many people do they reach? Of course, tools still matter. What tools we use for social listening, for influencer lists, and we want to refresh our list frequently. We shouldn't just make a list and then think that's the list that we can use for everything. Like I mentioned before, we might find that different product lines actually need different lists. And depending on how large our company is or what it is that we're trying to sell, we might need different lists for different things. So when we talk about tools of the trade, the main tool that the textbook talks about is Clout. So the unfortunate thing is that since the printing of this book, Clout was purchased by another company and has been discontinued. So Clout actually doesn't work anymore. But some of the other influencer analysis tools that they talk about in the book do still exist, such as BuzzSumo. So BuzzSumo um, looks at which influencers and people are more relevant to your brand. So you can go in and put in keywords and different content, and it will show you people who are using various platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc., and how many followers they have, what kind of reach they get, what they're looking for. BuzzSumo also works as a social listening tool. I encourage you to go to their website and check it out. They do have some free services that you don't have to pay for, so they do have some limited ability to do some social listening and look at influencers lists for free. They also have 30-day trials for their paid services. Then some of the other Mozbar, which is a Google Chrome browser plugin that shows you the SEO stats for any website that you open. Follower Wonk, this identifies influencers who are already following your brand. So that gives you a list of people who are already interested in your brand and are probably more likely to share the content that you're hoping to share. And then InkyBee, which is a distribution and engagement platform. So there's a wide variety of tools out there, especially if you just, when I looked up Clout, so when I Googled Clout, it said I found the first article I found was Clout no longer exists, but here are the 10 best influencer analysis tools to use instead. You should also develop your own influence approach. So, as with anything else, it's good to analyze what other people are doing, but don't try to copy what other people are doing. Really think strategically about what you are trying to accomplish. Analyze the different platforms you want to develop an approach for. For example, if you're mostly using Instagram and Facebook, then you want to focus your approach and your data analysis to Instagram and Facebook. You don't want to spend a lot of time analyzing across all digital platforms. You also need to think about what exactly you're trying to achieve and then develop a score to measure that. For example, if you're after engagement, then your score should weigh engagement more than anything else. If you're after straight reach, then you should look at reach more than anything else. And then what are some influencer metrics or KPIs that we can use to measure? So different KPI measurements that we have are like outlet and individual relevant reach. Is the outlet a website? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook? And what is the relevant reach of that individual? How many followers do they have? What do their followers look like? How often do their followers share content and increase the potential to reach? Outlet and individual syndication. So this how much reach a person gets when they publish a piece of content. You also want to know about what their residual reach is, how much extra shares they're getting, are the communities that they're engaging with sharing their article or post over and over again, individual relevance. So this is the on topic thing. Are they on topic for your brand? Are you looking for someone who's doing things that are relevant to what your brand is trying to advertise? Is this a potential target audience? And what is the likelihood to engage? How likely is it that that influencer is going to engage with your brand and share your content to their followers? We also have offline versus online influence. So, offline influence is really difficult to measure. This is where um, word to word of mouth advertising comes in, where when you're talking with your friends and one of your friends says, oh, well, I've bought that and here's why I like it, or I've used that. So it's hard to measure what kind of sharing people are doing when they're not doing it online in platforms. But offline influence is still a very important tool to have available. And then how do we use our influencer list? Well, influencer sites might be great places for paid media. So if we've already identified them as a person we would like to share our content, then we believe that people who come to their website will be interested in our information. So why wouldn't we put display ads on their website or talk to them about? We also might share some of their content on our owned media. So a mutual sharing. If I believe this influencer is someone I want to establish a shared content relationship with, then I'm going to post their stuff on my website or share their things on my Facebook page or my Twitter or into my feeds. I should share content across multiple social media platforms. And then we talk about four types of earned media targets in this list. So VIPs, exclusive access, pitch lists, and listening only. So this is a way to rank influencers as to which ones should you be more likely to give free access to really establish a relationship with versus which ones should you just be watching to see if you want to start sharing information with them at a later time. And that is chapter 8.